Anubis. This is not behavior befitting an Egyptian god. Anubis. Okay.
All right.
So.
Oh no! I just got a double lip.
Hey, it's Megan.
And Sue in the restricted section.
And today we are going to do a little discussion video.
Yeah, even though we just did a discussion video not long ago, but whatever.
Fuck it. Yeah.
But today we wanted to talk about why we love sci-fi.
Yeah, we just wanted to have a little chat about sci-fi.
Yeah, because we were kind of just talking about this by ourselves earlier, and I was like, we should make a video about this.
Film this, yeah. And while we film it, we're gonna drink some Black Butte Porter, which, like sci-fi, is one of my favorites.
It's a favorite, yeah. And I think we've had this on the channel before.
I'm sure we
last
have.
year sometime, but yeah.
Deschutes is like Deschutes is probably one of my all-time favorite breweries.
Yeah, they make
I
good
love
stuff.
Deschutes.
And Black Butte Porter is pretty delicious. That's good.
Nice and smooth.
Yeah, but we wanted to talk about sci-fi because I feel like a lot of people
shit on
kind of
sci-fi.
shit on it and look down on it, and I know a lot of people who just like don't understand why people like sci-fi and just think it's weird and why would you want to read that?
Why do you want to read about aliens?
Murphy, you're literally on the table completely.
Buddy.
You're on the table.
And now your sister's gonna come over here and she wants to come up too.
Why do you do this as soon as we start filming?
He knows.
Like before we were filming, they were just sleeping on the couch.
They were fine, and then as soon as we started
filming, as soon as we started talking with the camera on,
then here
we were sitting here talking, and they were fine. We start talking with the camera on, and all of a sudden,
here we are.
They need to be on us.
Guys!
Here's why we love sci-fi.
Here's why we love sci-fi.
For me, sci-fi, silly, fun sci-fi definitely exists. But the kind of sci-fi that I love is the kind that talks about social and political issues in our own world.
Yeah.
But in a different world.
But otherwise, yeah.
Like where you can make it, one, more interesting.
Right.
And also kind of bring in different ideas and things, you know what I mean? Like things that you couldn't, that maybe are less obvious in our own world, you can emphasize and make more obvious in the alien world.
Right. Plus, I feel like when you're dealing with things day to day, maybe you're kind of desensitized to them, you know? And plus, they're really personal for you. And like when people get emotionally involved in issues, it's hard for them to see the other side. You know what I mean? And so like I think that if you're talking about those issues but in a different world and with a completely different people and culture, then you can kind of get out of yourself and look at it more objectively or in perhaps a different way than you would have.
Right.
And so I think that it's really helpful.
And I also like that maybe sometimes things aren't super obvious, and so you have to kind of figure them out yourself and see like, how does this relate to our own world? Well, one of the authors that we love, that we talk about a lot, is Octavia Butler.
Oh my God. She's
and
brilliant.
like we read the Xenogenesis series last year and
plus a little bit of this year. Yeah, early this year.
Yeah. And that series was fucking brilliant. It was amazing. And there's so much in it that is definitely relevant
to like
to
race
our
and
world,
gender and like just cultural status. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's extremely relevant. But I think a lot of people think of sci-fi and they think, oh, it's just weird alien shit.
Well, yeah,
and it is.
But also, well, yes. But also, like, if you can look past the fact that it's happening with aliens, and some people can't, like, some people just see the aliens.
Yeah.
But, like, if you can look past the fact that it's happening with aliens and look at what is happening.
Right.
Then.
Yeah.
There's a lot
and
that
it's
can
a
be
way
said.
to point out things in our own society that maybe in just a unique way,
right?
For one thing, and also like I kind of said earlier, just like emphasize things,
kind of using hyperbole, like using things in a way that's more extreme than they are in perhaps our own society. And so you use like a little bit of exaggeration
Right.
for effect. Like the art of like making it a different culture and different, you know, this is happening on a different planet, it's a different society. And so you really have to like think about it for yourself, like you were saying. Like I think that is valuable.
Yeah. Because I think sometimes
you learn
yeah.
from that about yourself.
Yeah, because I think sometimes you can be too in it already, I guess.
Too close.
Yeah,
You're
like too close to it
to
if
really
you're
see it.
if it's talking about your own, like if it's talking about your own society that you're a part of, then you're too close to it and you have your own preconceived notions,
your own biases,
about
your own privilege, and you can't.
And so with sci-fi, you're kind of looking on the outside and seeing like things that maybe you wouldn't see otherwise. Yeah.
And honestly, like I really do feel more like I don't know what the word is for it, but like I feel like I did grow as a person by reading like some of the sci-fi that I've read. Like I honestly feel like by reading the Xenogenesis series, like I feel like I've grown as a person.
For sure. Yeah.
Like I feel like I have thought about things and like put myself in different situations that I wouldn't have put myself in, and really thought about like how would you handle that. But yeah, sci-fi I feel like is like a really good escape, but also it's a really good perspective giver.
It is interesting because I do feel like it's an escape, but it's still so like, you know what? You know what I mean? It's like kind of a combination of both, where it's like you've got stuff like literary fiction and like nonfiction, where I wouldn't really call those escape type of books because they're often very heavy and like talking about very relevant issues in our own society. And I think sci-fi does still talk about relevant issues, but it's still kind of an escape because you're escaping to a different world.
Right.
Or even if it's on our own world, on our own planet, it's a different society, a different thing going on our planet, you know?
I think a really good example of like other than Octavia Butler, but like a really good example would maybe be, and I talk about this book all the time, so whatever, you're gonna roll your eyes, but The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. So roll your eyes, but okay, so this takes place in space and it's on a ship. But like it talks about so many different cultures, and like there are so many things that it brings that are relevant.
Yes.
Like for example, Sissix and her character. It kind of brings to life a lot of the like feminist issues.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, because her culture is kind of almost flipped on its head with the way our culture is.
Where adults are more valuable than children and mothers, just because you birthed a child doesn't mean that you have to be this domestic figure.
Right.
And then also, I mean, there's a lot of different other things that it brings to light, like
the furry dude.
I loved him.
I want to say Ohana, but that's
Ohan.
That's from
Ohan.
Oh, okay.
Ohana.
Ohana's from Lilo and Stitch, right?
Ohana
means family.
Right. But like,
Ohan, like
he's internalized,
his like collective
himself.
Yeah, and like he was almost being brainwashed by his
religion.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. Basically.
And so like I feel like there are so many things to unpack from that one like silly sci-fi novel. Like I feel like there's a lot of things to be said about gender and religion and class in that one sci-fi novel. And also, if you strip away the fact that it takes place in space.
Right.
If you strip away the fact that it takes place about aliens, it's about people.
Right.
And their interactions with each other.
Right.
And their lives with each other.
Yeah, and I feel like because we read this book with our book club that we were both in. When was this? This was our first video ever. By the way, it was a review of this book. Don't go watch it.
This book, so please don't watch this.
Don't go watch
it. Was terrible. Yeah, it was bad.
But that was our first video ever. Was a review of The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. But we read it for our book club, and I think we were the only ones.
I think so.
Who loved it, and I feel like a lot of the people
didn't understand
in the book club couldn't see past that this was a book about aliens.
Novel, right?
You know. And so I think a lot of people just write sci-fi off as like being stupid books about aliens, but
there's so much more to it.
There's like a lot of times.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every time, because
not
there
every
definitely
time.
is some dumb sci-fi shit out there. But a lot of times, if you read a really good sci-fi novel, it's got so much more in it than just aliens.
Right. If you
know?
unpack it, there's so much there. And like
And
you
it's
said,
just like critical thinking.
right. Just like think about on a larger scale. If it's not just about aliens, what is it about?
Mm-hmm.
So if you pretend like it's not about aliens, pretend like it didn't take place in space, just pretend like it's people.
Mm-hmm.
What's the book about?
Yeah, and like also I read like a book I talk about sometimes is A Planet for Rent by Yas, and that's a book that is an allegory for communist rule in Cuba, and you could apply it to other countries as well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But he took something from our world and made it sci-fi about alien and
Yeah.
made it, amplified it, like it was hyperbole and a lot of it was hyperbole because it's like you got these aliens who are so powerful that they can literally destroy continents. Like if you get online, they can
wipe you out.
An entire continent like that. Use like the different alien races and their, how powerful they each were as an allegory to represent like that type of government, and how you got the people, the people at the very top who just control everything, and then it, tears down in the book it was humans who were like the bottom up the food chain. And so if you look at it like that, and it becomes more jarring and more
visceral.
when you read it like that and see like all humans are being treated like dirt, then it becomes more resounding, I think, to like see that and be like, this is so unfair and unjust to see it that way, whenever like now it's easy to just not think about those countries, I think, and think like, well, that's over there in Cuba and I'm here in Missouri.
But I feel like that can be like a larger allegory for race relations. And so like you read stuff like that and like all of a sudden humans are the ones persecuted.
Yeah.
And you can relate that to like, okay, here's Native Americans, here's African Americans.
Right. But when you read it in this book, it's like all humans, and so you're a human.
You are a human.
So that's you
being
being persecuted as well, even though like me as a white person does, has
we have a
never
lot more privilege
experienced
and
that.
a lot more than other people. But if you read it like that, then maybe it's easier to put yourself like, oh shit.
Yeah, like, this is terrible. They're treating all humans like that. And then if you really think about it, you're like, oh, this is the way these groups of people have been treated here on our planet.
Right, and so it makes it more relatable to you. I think sci-fi is an incredibly valuable part of literature.
I agree, and I think that it's really looked down on a lot. Like, you don't see a lot of sci-fi novels getting, like,
awards,
critical acclaim. You don't see them nominated for like the Man Booker Prize usually, or the Nobel Prize in Literature, things like that. You don't ever see sci-fi.
No.
And like the only author I can think of who dabbles in sci-fi who's like really well acclaimed is like Vonnegut. I mean, I think Ursula K. Le Guin and Octavia Butler are both pretty respected as well, but they're not like household names like Vonnegut is.
Well, because they're women.
That too. But like sci-fi in general, like there's really, I guess there's like Jules Verne and H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, and H.P. Lovecraft was a racist.
He was a racist.
Yeah.
And Jules Verne, I've read one of his books and it was fucking boring.
Yeah, so I feel like sci-fi is not super respected.
No.
No,
I don't think it is, and I think that's a travesty.
I agree. Like, I feel like there's, obviously, like we said, there's a lot of, like, really silly sci-fi. But you know what? I feel like even saying that is kind of trivializing it as a genre, because there's a lot of really silly literature fiction.
That's true.
And there's a lot of really silly, like...
There's silly everything.
Yeah, there's silly horror novels. There are silly, like, literary fiction.
Yeah.
There are silly poetry things. Like, I feel like it's really trivializing sci-fi to say, well, there's really, silly sci-fi. Yeah.
That's true.
Yes.
That's a good point. There's silly everything.
Yeah. So, like, fuck that. Sci-fi is legitimate, and I feel like everyone should at least try to read something.
Yeah, and I get it if it's not your thing.
If it's not your thing, but like try it once.
But like,
and if you don't like
when
it,
you
that's
read
okay.
it, like try to think about like what else is in here besides weird alien stuff. You know what I mean? Because I even saw some comments on like the Xenogenesis series by Octavia Butler. I think I was looking at like the Goodreads reviews or something. Yeah, and people were commenting on the weird alien sex.
People like get past it.
That's not the point of the fucking book.
Is that all you got from it?
Is that all you got from it? Was weird alien sex? Like,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
It's
so
stupid.
I think like a good intro to sci-fi would maybe be like Kindred.
Yeah, Kindred, especially like intro to Octavia Butler.
Yeah.
If you haven't read sci-fi,
right? Maybe try Kindred
because it's very light on.
It's super light on the sci-fi.
No aliens at all.
No.
Just in time travel.
Yeah. Only time travel.
And
then maybe like Blackout by Connie Willis. Again, time travel, no aliens, only time travel. So maybe try that.
I just love alien shit.
I really love it. And like, I really do feel like The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is a good intro to that because
it is.
It's more about the characters. It's more about the relationships between the characters than it is about like, we're aliens.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Like it's less about how weird they are and more about how alike they are.
Exactly. Like, how do we interact with each other?
Yeah.
So those are some good places to start with sci-fi if you're interested.
Yeah.
But
in our opinion. We're not experts.
We are not experts at all. But if you're interested in sci-fi, maybe try those.
I've been like dabbling in sci-fi for a while, but I think
Same.
I've read more sci-fi in the past like year or two than I had my whole life, really.
Yeah, same for me too. Yeah, sci-fi and like dystopian-ish stuff, which is kind of sci-fi. Yeah.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts about sci-fi. Are you a sci-fi lover? Are you someone? Yeah, like do you hate sci-fi? And if so, tell us why.
Yeah, let us know. Let's have a talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Let's chat.
Black Butte Porter, delicious.
One of my favorite beers of all time.
If you're into porters, it's a good one.
And like it has a really smooth finish. A lot of porters have a bitter finish. This does not.
Yeah, this isn't really bitter at all. Maybe slightly, but not much.
Nice and smooth.
Yeah, so there'll be some links below where you can find other places on the internet.
And if you're not already subscribed to the restricted section,
do that.
Do that shit.
And thank you for watching.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.